everybody. Welcome to the next installment of Journey Through John, where we're taking bite-sized chunks of the Gospel of John and having a brief discussion and a brief challenge at the end. And today we're continuing on through John chapter 8. We'll be reading verses 21 through 30 today and diving into that. So let's go ahead and jump in. It's verse 21. So he said to them, this being Jesus, he said to them again, I'm going away and you will seek me and will die in your sin. Where I'm going, you cannot come. So the Jews said, will he kill himself since he says, where I'm going, you cannot come? He said to them, you are from below and I am from above. You are of this world. I'm not of this world. I told you that you would die in your sins, for unless you believe that I am he, you will die in your sins. So they said to him, who are you? Jesus said to them, just what I have been telling you from the beginning. I have much to say about you and much to judge. Remember he said the judge piece before, yesterday. But he said, he who sent me is true, and I declare to the world that I have heard from him. They did not understand. They were speaking to them about the Father. So Jesus said to them, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and that I do nothing on my own authority, but speak just as the Father taught me. And he who sent me is with me, and he's not left me alone. For I always do the things that are pleasing to him. And he was saying these things, as he was saying these things, many believed in him. This is another interesting piece here where Jesus is just trying to clarify it because people aren't getting it or refusing to get it, as we talked a little bit about yesterday. And so we see this where they're confused because he's saying, if you're in sin and then I do what I need to do and I'm going to ascend back to heaven where I came from, and you stay in sin because you don't believe in me, you can't go where I'm going. You can't go, you can't see me there. It's going to be a whole different thing, and that's why you need to believe in who I am. And they were like, well, are you saying is he going to kill himself? And see, that's how far off that they were. And it's easy for us to point back in hindsight being 2020 and say, man, these people didn't get him. Well, I sure do. But then it causes me to really think about it and say, how much am I getting? Am I conjuring something up so it fits my narrative? Or am I letting the Bible dictate the narrative and say, Spirit of God, reveal to me and let my will be bent to yours? And see, when Jesus starts having this conversation and talking about this and starting to open up, all of a sudden we do see that people don't fully understand, and that's okay. It's important for us in our faith, especially in the early days of our faith, to not understand everything, but just trust Jesus and start walking and learning as we go along. And it's important for those of us who may be a little further down the road to find someone to have that conversation with. If you are a believer and you've been a believer for quite a while, and I'd even say, this is my personal opinion, if you've been a believer for about 6 months or more and you're not talking to someone who's newer to the faith, we're dropping the ball. It's a way for us to learn too. People are going to ask us questions that are new to the faith or don't have our same faith, ask us questions that we need to start digging into the Word to find out. If we're not challenged in that way, we'll never dig in. That's a side note. I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but that's just a challenge to us there. So we see this, and where Jesus comes down to this is he's not trying to glorify himself. And he even says, I don't do anything on my own authority. I only do what the Father wants. And it reminds me of the Lord's Prayer. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And that's what Jesus is doing. He's carrying out the will of the Father here as if he were in heaven. And, you know, when God is in heaven and he says this and he's done, it just happens. It's a responsive obedience. And we should be looking to respond in obedience in the same way. He's also talking about how he's not been left alone. And if we look forward to the cross, when sin comes upon Jesus, he says, Father, why have you forsaken me? And that's the first time we see that separation taking place. Without getting too deep into that, as he's describing all this in verse 30, what it says is he was saying these things, many believed in him. And there's no way they understand everything that's going on. But he speaks with such authority and such confidence, and what he's saying is backed up with what we see in the Old Testament. We see the fulfillment of prophecy. We see the witnesses that he's talked about yesterday. We see all these pieces coming together, and some people are like, I don't know exactly what he's talking about, but I think he's who he says he is. I think we should start listening to him. I think we should start following him. And so we see people starting to shift. And what is that going to do, just for foreshadowing, what's this going to do with those who already want to kill him? What's this going to do with those religious leaders? They definitely want this to be done. They definitely do not want to, they don't want to dive into this. This is a mess. It's even getting worse. So our challenge for today is this. Some things we don't understand about Jesus. Some things we don't understand when we read the Bible. Sometimes you might read the Bible and walk away like, I don't even know what I just read. It was black words on white paper. But our challenge today is this. Find somebody, if you don't understand, find somebody that you feel is a little bit further along in the road and talk to them. I say, I have some questions. Can we get together sometime? Or at least talk on the phone in the midst of this quarantine time. And if you are further along down the road, your challenge is this. I want you to find at least one person that you want to talk to about the Bible. They may be a little younger than you age-wise. They may be a little bit younger than you faith-wise. They may be about where you are. But get together with them. And I want to challenge you to meet with them, or at least start talking to them for 6 months to a year. And you're like, that's a big commitment. I know. But we as believers need to be doing this and start talking through something. It may be a Bible study. It may be just every time I have a question, I'm going to write it down and we're going to talk about it. Whatever it may be, I want to challenge you to do that. I think it's very important, and I hope it does stir up something within you. And I hope to see you again tomorrow as we continue to journey through John.